Welcome to Aromatherapy for Immunity Support class. My name is Delisa Eddington, and I'm a nurse practitioner. I work right now for Time Labs in Pocatello, Idaho, and we have put together this beautiful PowerPoint presentation for you to learn from. We're here to look at how to strengthen our immune system, especially in light of COVID-19 and all of the other flus I've still seen in the clinic and infections. So we're here to kind of talk about how to boost our immune systems. I truly believe in an integrative class, so please type in your questions, ask at any time. This should be a class discussion and not just a lecture. You don't want to come and hear my voice for an hour. You want to build together and learn from each other. So please feel free to type in any question. I can see your messages and I will respond to them whenever I can. So at the start of this presentation, I just want to make it clear that, these products that we're using and evaluating today, they have not been evaluated by the FDA. So they are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. So that being said, let's plunge into immunity support today. Our immune system works 24/7 to protect our bodies from any damaging invaders. Those could be physical, those could be chemical, and those could be thermal, right? Our skin protects us from burns, protects us from bugs and viruses, bacteria that we may get in contact with 24/7. It does have a layer of bacteria on it that tends to be helpful to us pending it doesn't penetrate the skin. So skin is our very first defense mechanism against any of the bacteria that may enter our bodies. There are special cells in our bodies that are created in the bone marrow that become specialized immune cells. We store them in the bone marrow and then they mature and float through different areas of our bodies patrolling. Luckily, we don't have to be in control of those and monitor those ourselves, or we would probably we probably wouldn't make it through the first year of life because we would forget to watch out for invaders that have entered our system. Lucky for us, they float through the bloodstream and watch it for us. Our lymphatic system store and release a lot of these immune cells that we'll talk about, particularly the B immune cells. B and helper T cells we'll talk about in a minute, macrophages and dendrites. Those actually go through and protect our bodies against bacteria and viruses that are released into our bloodstream. Like I said, our bloodstream monitors constantly, and then our GI tract also has what are called Peyer's patches. So those are also monitoring system in the GI tract to make sure that if anything toxic or foreign gets in our GI system, it isn't released into the bloodstream and our system will purge it out for us. Any questions? Feel free, like I said, to type in any questions or any concerns or anything on your mind. Some of these cells that we talked about, the macrophages and dendritic cells, come through, they're pretty cool cells. They actually come through and envelop a bacteria or a virus and they eat it for us. They find out what it looks like and then they start sending an alarm out to other cells to say, hey, look, these are some of the problems that we're finding and this bad bug is in our system. Can you raise the alarm and attack this bug? And so that macrophage kicks off those cytokine responses into the other cells to say, hey, let's kick this up. The T helper cells divide up into become B cells, which provide antibodies. That's the one that attacks those cells, recognizes it, attacks it, and attaches onto it. The helper T cells turn into macrophages or killer T cells, which kill on the spot. Because of those, the B cells and the antibodies create a memory, which is why the immunizations tend to work, or when we get a cold and then we get exposed to that same cold again, our system builds an attack a lot faster so we don't get as sick. So the biggest thing we have to take care of is the cell wall, right? If the viruses can't penetrate into the cell wall or bacteria can't penetrate into the cell wall, then they can't multiply and divide. Bacteria can divide outside and inside the cell wall. Viruses cannot. So the cell wall is made up of the omega-3 fatty acids, zinc, cholesterol. Believe it or not, it is helpful for you. Amino acids, vitamins C and E, and carbohydrates. All of these nutrients we got to get in our foods and in our diet so that we can strengthen that cell wall and keep viruses and bacteria from penetrating inside the cell. Most of us actually don't make enough omega-3 fatty acids, so it's important that we amp those up in our diet. Most of our cell wall, I would probably say 80% of our cell wall are built off of the omega-3 fatty acids. So when we don't have enough of them in our diet, our cell wall starts to weaken. Zinc is another one I want to talk about. It strengthens the cell wall so that viruses and things have a harder time penetrating into the cell wall. That's why Zicam and products, when back in the day, our grandmas used to tell us, suck on the zinc, it'll make you feel better and help your cold feel better and faster. She wasn't wrong with that. Sucking on that zinc actually puts the zinc into our system and strengthens the cell wall so that virus can't penetrate. And if they can't penetrate, they can't reproduce. If they can't reproduce, then we don't get overwhelmed and bombarded by those cold viruses. So keep that in mind as we go through this process. So let's talk about the invaders real quick. These are our enemies. Bacteria and viruses are usually the ones that we are targeting the most. Bacteria are much larger, like 100 times larger than viruses are, which is why viruses are harder to control. Bacteria can reproduce inside and outside of the cell. They have little organelles, they're living organisms. They can live in warm, moist environments. So when you get a bacterial infection, it's harder to get rid of it without boosting your immune support or an antibiotic. And I'll briefly touch base on antibiotics and when we use them and when we don't. Viruses cannot live outside of the cell for very long. Now the COVID-19, this is one thing that's making this so hard for us to compensate from, is it's been found alive on surfaces 17 days after people have left the room untouched. So you could touch the doorknob, the table, 17 days later, it's still found alive. So that's why this particular bug is quite a nasty one that we're struggling to get rid of. Most viruses die within 3 or 4 days. On a surface, hepatitis B is the only other one that I know of that lives beyond 5 days, and it will live up to 14 days on a surface. But like I said, if they cannot penetrate into a cell, they can't reproduce and kick off more viruses. They may live, but they can't reproduce. So if we can keep our cell wall super healthy with the vitamin C and D, the zinc, and the omega fatty acids, and the proper nutrients, then those viruses can't penetrate. They can't have babies. They can't overtake our system. The ones that are alive end up dying off, and we don't get the sickness as bad as we would if they had taken over our system. Before we go into daily protection, let me talk just a brief minute about antibiotics. I'm not against antibiotics. They work really, really well, and there's a time when they're needed. The problem with antibiotics is that they go in and they kill everything. They're not super selective as to picking out the healthy bacteria and the bad bacteria. They don't go in and say, oh, this is the one we're trying to kill. We'll kill this one. We'll leave everyone else healthy and alive. They go in like a Hiroshima bomb and they annihilate every bacteria that they can find, right? Which is helpful when we're overridden with bacterial infections, especially if we get a bacterial infection in the blood that can travel a lot of places. We want to be able to kill that off, but we also kill the healthy bacteria along with it. The macrophages and the dendritic cells in our bloodstream that we make ourselves in our immune system actually go along and they find and target the bad bacteria and leave the healthy bacteria in place. So if we can boost our immune system and strengthen our cells in our body, then we can do better hand picking out the bad ones and leaving the good ones present if we have to, and our immune system can no longer keep up. that's when we use an antibiotic to go in and kill them all out. Then we have to go in and replace all of those good bacteria, or we end up with bad bacterial overgrowth or bad problems like C. diff, which we see an increase in. Now that we have antibiotic use on the rise, we see an increase in C. diff. So that's just my little blip. If you need an antibiotic, they're perfect. If we can strengthen the immune system and get it to target the cells that are having trouble, that's the first step we want to take. So how do we boost our immune system? How do we keep our bodies healthy, especially, how do we keep us as antiviral as possible today when we're fighting so many bacteria all around us, not only the normal everyday colds and streps and influenza. I've still seen positive flu coming back and strep and runs of sinus infections, along with, trying to prevent the COVID and other problems. Some things that have been totally proven to be useful is, multivitamins. You have the extra C and the E. The multivitamins provide the immune support that you need. Usually includes zinc. One key thing with multivitamins is to make sure that you get one that is readily absorbed. Some people have the MTHFR gene. The MTHFR gene makes it hard for people to absorb B vitamins and folic acid. So I would suggest that you find one that it has methylated B vitamins, because they're easily processed, readily cross the cell wall, and those with the MTHFR gene can process those B vitamins across. Time Labs makes a really good supplement. In fact, all of their B vitamins are methylated B, so that they're all readily absorbed. There are others out there. I know that Time Labs, I can get the constituents on those. I know those are good multivitamins. So the only caveat I have with their multivitamins is if you have cancer, we don't want you to take zinc. Zinc actually increases growth hormones, so it's not helpful when you have cancer to provide extra growth hormone and increase cancer cell rate. So Time Labs is the only place that I know of that makes a multivitamin. It's called Ultra Preventative C. The C is not for vitamin C, it's actually for cancer. It has all the cancer promoting ingredients taken out and all the cellular and immune boosting support put back in. So that's my one little spiel for zinc and cancer. We'll probably touch base on it later, but make sure when you're trying to protect that cell wall, if you have cancer, to steer clear of zinc and try and get that ultra preventative C so that you get the immune support you need everywhere else without promoting cancer. Omega fatty acids, like we talked about earlier, the cell wall is like 80% omega fatty acids. If viruses cannot penetrate the cell wall, they cannot replicate. And instead of, being exposed to 100 viruses and then within a day you have 1,000,000 viruses because they're so tiny they reproduce quickly, you will still only have the 100 which are dying off, and the cold can't overrun your immune system. So keep those omega fatty acids in. A broad range omega fatty acid tends to work better. Omega fatty acid foods like salmon and those that are rich naturally in omega fatty acids are great. Black currant is another one that works really well. There's plenty out there. Do some homework. I know that Time Labs has some supplements, and we'll go through some of those too, that are really healthy. They have a broad range fatty acid that you can use. Another daily protection is a diet rich in amino acids and complex carbohydrates. So simple refined carbohydrates like white flours, white sugars, they are quick in and they are quick out, and they tend to wreak havoc along the way. Complex carbohydrates, the whole grains, the brown rice, the whole wheat, the quinoa, the millet, those ones are going to actually benefit your body more. Number one, they have more vitamins and nutrition in them than white does. White is stripped it out. That's why we have to enrich our white flours, because the whole wheat vitamins that would come with the whole wheat is pulled out to get the refined flours. And they kick off more free radicals, which causes more damage in your system. So complex carbohydrates, slower to reduce the sugar, more vitamin enriched. And the amino acids, those are proteins. So you want to increase proteins and increase the complex carbohydrates. some time in the sun. And it's hard right now if you're in Idaho because it's sunny for about an hour or 20 minutes and then it rains and then the sun peeks out and then it rains. And we can't complain because there's lots of places like England and Washington and Oregon that only see the rain for most of the day. But the sun is critical to providing vitamin D in your system. Now you can get a vitamin D supplement, but it really needs the sun and functioning kidneys to activate that vitamin D to an active source of vitamin D inside of your body. So spending some time outside in the sun is important. In some of my other classes, people have asked about sunblock and does vitamin D actually come through the sunblock? Most of the time it does not. So where we're looking at an increased rate of skin cancer, what I would say is, 30 minutes to an hour out in the sun is great. Throw on some sunscreen after that, make sure that we prevent damage, but make sure that you have some time in the sun every day so that that vitamin D and that sun can radiate into your skin and you can have that conversion. Plus the sun increases those happy hormones that help decrease the amount of depression that we have. Exercise is vital to your immune system. It actually boosts several key immune cells like your T's and B's. It increases those endorphins, those happy hormones, and those things that make you feel better. It helps you process your food better and makes your intestinal system work better. So exercise is the best, is key to being healthy, not only immunity-wise, but physically strong. And like I said, time outside is so important. There's something about stepping into nature and feeling the sun on your face and being outside that is a natural mood booster. So with that depressed mood, your immune system cells go down. With a happier mood, your immune systems are boosted. So outside exercise is awesome. Mindfulness meditation. I do have to say a little piece about this. My children laugh at me and call me a monk on the side. Mindfulness actually has a lot of neuroscience and data and research that has been done on it. What they're finding is that mindfulness meditation done every single day for 15 to 20 minutes will boost your immune cells, particularly your T cells, even if you have cancer and even if you have AIDS. They have found that mindfulness-based practice will increase your immune cells and protect your health. So there's my key for mindfulness. A little meditation does everyone some good. Thomas Edison once said, "A doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but will cure and prevent disease with nutrition." And it's surprising to me that we're, hundreds of years later, we're still struggling to get our diet such that it can add those vitamins and add that nutrition like it needs to. So eat whole foods, eat the rainbow, get those natural vitamins in. Since we can't seem to get it in a lot, there are lots of supplements and supportive care. So let's talk about some of them, and then we'll go through individual ones. Rest is important when your immune system is trying to fight off lots of bacteria and viruses. It's important that we get the rest that we need so that the immune system has the energy resources it needs to pull from to continue that attack. It truly is like a war in your system, and if we are at war on the inside, it's hard to be busy on the outside. We got to rest somewhere so that they have the nutrients and the energy that they need to fight that war. Ultra Elderberry Plus is a really good one. Elderberry, the research on it shows that elderberry does a couple things, well, probably several things, but the two that I want to talk about today is virus support and immunity support. Elderberry stops the virus from reproducing. That's how it works. So if it can get into the cell wall, it stops that virus from reproducing inside the cell. Remember, if we can keep the virus outside of the cell, then it'll die off. If it penetrates through the cell, then it can wage war on your cell and multiply and then kick off lots more virus. Elderberry works inside of the cell and stops the virus from reproducing on the inside. So if we get that sickness, that elderberry helps. Another thing elderberry does is it boosts the immune system. It is an immune modulator. It's not an immune enhancer per se. So there's a lot of discussion about elderberry and the cytokine response and whether or not elderberry is helpful during the COVID virus, COVID-19 that we're fighting. From the research we can find, there's no reason why you should not take elderberry. Annette Davis and Dr. Pejman have both worked diligently in this effort to see if there is truly a link. For what they can find is elderberry is an immune modulator. It will boost the immune system when it needs to. It'll calm down the immune system when it needs to. This means that the cytokine response, elderberry is not kicking off the cytokine response. The cytokine response, remember when we talked about cells and how they stick out, the cell will die and send out all these markers saying, be careful, there's a disease here, we have a bad bacteria. It's like a warning to all the other cells around it. That's cytokines that kick those off. The elderberry and the link into the cytokine response is actually has been unverified from the research. Like I said, we can find elderberry super helpful. That cytokine response, the people who are having the severe reaction are also ones who have had immune system trouble and inflammation inside of their cells. And between both of those, the immune system being knocked down and the inflammation in their cells combined makes the airway struggle, and the inflammation closes the airway off while the virus wreaks havoc and continues to throw off those markers. So please, do some research, look at it. Every piece of data we can find shows that elderberry is not actually going to increase that. There's actually some data that it has to do with the glutathione response. So if you have any questions, flip up the questions and ask, or do some research. There's some great websites out there you can do research from, and a lot of them are free. So ask away, do some research. There's always some good stuff. The NAC that Time Labs has just put out, Dr. Pejman and Annette Davis got together and worked on the NAC. It's the N-acetylcysteine that actually helps lower the glutathione and the inflammatory response that they were thinking the elderberry would kick up, but it really doesn't. So they have built a new supplement that will boost that to help support the immune system through that attack. Zinc is, like I said, a really good one to help strengthen that cell wall. Pending you don't have cancer, zinc can become your next best friend. Phytobiotic is another one that boosts the immune system, makes it harder for viruses and bacteria to live in your immune system. There's the ImmunoBoost Extra Tincture Blend. This is a new one too that they have built together that has extra viral support. It's respiratory specific. It really helps with the respiratory issues, the influenzas, the bronchitis, and those viruses, kind of like the COVID, right? Like the COVID is a respiratory virus. The ImmuBoost Extra Tincture Blend tends to target those viruses. Please remember that there is no cure for COVID as far as we have been able in medicine or aromatherapy combined. We've not been able to come out and say this thing will cure COVID-19. But these will boost the immune system, and the immune system is what will fight off the COVID-19, just like the influenzas that we've got so far. ImmuPlus is another one that strengthens your immune system. If you have irritable bowel, or if you have an influenza that deals with the GI tract, the French green clay or the GI Pro tend to protect the lining of the gut. It actually calms down and decreases inflammation inside the gut lining. So those are really good supplements to have on hand. And then raw honey has some antibacterial, antiviral properties. With that, please remember that it's used for children over 1 year of age, not before. The reason that is because it can contain small amounts of botulism, which our adult system and children over 1 can fight off, but children younger than 1, not every child can fight that off. So we want to make sure we don't share that around. Essential oils, cypress, all of these, since all of these blends are available at Time Labs, you can pick any of them up at Time Labs. I'm sure that there are other places out there, and like I said, I'm not just specific to Time Labs, but I have the constituent on Time Labs, and they're phenomenal, phenomenal oil blends. So I'm not saying you have to use just Time Labs products, but I am saying that they are one of the top of the line products that you'll ever find. So with decent pricing, that being said too, because money's tight for everyone right now since we're all stuck at home working from home, right? So some essential oils to have on hand, and we'll go through these: Cypress and Breathe Easy, Immunoboost Extra. Then there's the fir, pine, and spruce blends that you can get or pick them up as single oils: Ravensara, eucalyptus, lemongrass. Lemongrass is one of my favorites to put in the air. It tends to purify the air really well, and it has an uplifting scent. Nightcap helps people to be calm. Nightcap is chamomile and lavender mixed together. So it has some serious anti-inflammatory benefits to it, some analgesic effects, and it's very calming. Peppermint, rosemary, and oregano. Like I said, we'll go through some of these. I've listed a lot of their properties on here so that you can use this, hopefully use this PowerPoint later as a reference if you need to. So here's some that are just specific for the respiratory. Pine, fir, and spruce have been known for thousands of years to help with the respiratory infections. They are, like, pine is an expectorant. It's anti-infectious. It's antimicrobial. A lot of Native American tribes have used pine, and especially the pine and the fir, for respiratory illnesses for for thousands of years. Fir is an immunomodulator. So what we mean, I've talked about immunomodulators through this whole PowerPoint, and I apologize, I didn't really say what that meant. Immunomodulators come in and they assess the immune system. They support it and boost it when it needs boosted. They calm it down when it's overriding. And so they tend to provide a more stable and more effective immune system. And that's what immunomodulator is. It modulates how the immune system is working in your body. Fir is also anti-inflammatory and an analgesic. Spruce is antimicrobial, anti-inflammatories. It works really well with bronchitis. It'll calm down an asthmatic cough. Breathe Easy has been made with bergamot, tea tree, lemon, eucalyptus. Eucalyptus, people have used eucalyptus forever. It's a decongestant, it's anti-infective, lower a fever, it's antibacterial, antiviral, anti-inflammatory, it targets the respiratory system. Tea tree oil is also antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal, and anti-inflammatory. Remember too, one little piece of mind, or one little piece to remember in your mind, that's what I meant to say, that every antiviral oil is not antiviral against every virus. So those are some things to keep in mind. Lemon boosts the immune system. It's antibacterial, it's analgesic, it's like decreases anxiety, and it's also a natural antidepressant, and it has some antidiuretic properties. So it has some diuretic properties that will help you flush out extra water into your system. So lemon is also really good to clean with because of those antibacterial properties. Bergamot is anti-inflammatory. It decreases anxiety. It helps people to rest and sleep better. It helps the digestive system, and it's antidepressant. And that depression decreases that immune system. So we want to make sure that we don't have those issues, or they're not compounded, since we're all stuck here. Since we're all stuck on lockdown and the future is a little rocky at the moment, we need to boost some of those as we go through as well. So any questions so far? Everybody doing okay? Okay. So here's a respiratory continued. The Ultra Cough, Cold, and Flu tincture put out by Time Labs is a blend. This is one that they've had for a long time. The CCF stands for cough, cold, and flu. It has ribes and rosa, licorice, cypress, thyme, and ravensara. So the ribes and rosa actually help boost the adrenal glands and adrenal support. I would take this tincture, usually it's about 2 cc's, every 2 to 3 hours when you're seriously sick, less when you're not so sick. It has antibacterial, antiviral, antitussive, so that's cough reducer, decongestant, and immune support. Okay. Cypress will treat the cough with and asthmatic issues. It's anti-inflammatory, antimicrobial, and increases circulation. Licorice, you have to be a little bit more careful with if you're going to take just a straight licorice supplement. It can increase blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure already, make sure that when you get licorice, it's in a blend and that you're not increasing large amounts of licorice supplementation just because it will raise your blood pressure. The ImmuBoost Extra and the ImmuBoost Spice, this is an essential oil blend. It has thyme, lavender, eucalyptus, balsamia, and fir. The spice has clove, cinnamon, and rosemary added into it. These are really good to take and put in the air. They also work really good orally. I wouldn't take any more than 3 or 4 drops every 3 to 4 hours as an adult. The dosage is severely reduced, and I wouldn't give it to a child at all orally. As far as the essential oils are concerned, oils are very, very potent and very strong. So if you're going to take it internally, make sure that you are very careful with how you choose to take it and you do it under medical advice. These are totally safe too to put into a pot of hot steamy water, put a towel over your head and just breathe them in and get those oils working into your system. One good benefit of breathing them in through the pot is you get it straight into the lungs, and the lungs are very close, the blood circulates all through the lungs before it hits all the other systems in your body. And so breathing it into the lungs not only targets the respiratory area, but it also hits circulation pretty quickly. So it's a good way to breathe in that steamy cold, plus it vasodilates and drains all the sinus junk that you get built up in your lungs. So that's a good way to use those oils as well. Respiratory continued. We tended to hit a lot on respiratory today just because the COVID virus has a lot to do with the respiratory system, so we are targeting that area today. But like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to type them in. The ImmuBoost Extra Tincture Blend, this is a new blend made by Pejman and Annette Davis. It has the elderberry and the eleuthero, that has the birch, the thyme, the eucalyptus, the fir, the lavender, and the balsamia. So this is a tincture blend. Tincture blends are blends with oils and mother tinctures blended together that you take orally. And I didn't put each ingredient back into here, into the list, because they are listed previously. So here's some of the ones. I tried to just list the new ones that we hadn't talked about before so it wasn't so redundant. Birch has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties. Febrifuge means it will help to lower a fever. Anti-infectious and antibacterial. Eleuthero is anti-inflammatory, it's adrenal support, and it has some glucocorticoids, glucocorticoids are natural, they boost glucocorticoid production. That's natural anti-inflammatory, little anti-inflammatory cells that you have in your own body. NAC is that new one that we were talking about, the N-acetylcysteine. It has the glycine in it, combined with vitamin C, MSM, lemon, orange, and tangerine. So this one is specifically formulated to boost the glutathione production and to reduce the oxidative stress and immune support. So we're really trying to target that glutathione response that seems to be flaring in patients that get seriously ill with the COVID-19. It will not cure COVID-19, but it will boost your immune system to stay as healthy as possible through the COVID-19 process and hopefully prevent, you from getting very severe with the COVID-19 and keep things as little as possible. Now, the benefit of these supplements is that you can take them ahead of time so that when you're exposed to it, it has little, minimal effect on you, and then your body gets those immune system, those immune markers and the antibodies built so that the next time it comes in contact, you wage war against it and it doesn't actually have a chance to take over your system. And that's the whole point of these blends. You can take them when you have the infection. You can take a smaller dose before you have the infection so that your immune system is at full power when the infection comes. It doesn't have the chance to overtake your system. And that's where this NAC comes in. It's so important to keep that glutathione production so that the inflammatory markers that we've noticed in patients that are on ventilators and are doing so poorly with this COVID-19, we can try and help thwart that one system. That being said, it's not going to absolutely 100% guarantee that you're not going to get sick. Every body's just a little different, and viruses morph, right? That's why we have so many flu viruses. And the flu shot, you can't make one to just fix the rest of your life because things morph. But it is one of the best chances we have to keep our system built strong and healthy and to help knock down the ability of that COVID to take over and provide life-threatening problems. So keep these things in mind when you're going through it. And the lemon and the orange and the tangerine will boost that vitamin C and that immune system and do all of the other things we've talked about. Phytobiotic is another good one to have on hand. The house leek, the knotweed, the blackcurrant, balsamia thyme, lavender savory. It has vitamin A's, vitamin B6, pantothenic acid, that's vitamin B5, and lysine inside of it. Okay. This particular blend is very antiviral and antibacterial. It has a lot of strong properties. This is another one that keeping on hand during this outbreak right now is not a bad idea. It's actually recommended. And I go through each one of these, but in light of time, I don't want to bore you either with all of these. Lysine is one I want to talk about. It supports that mucosal lining. And is a building block for all the protein and cell health. So like we talked about before, zinc, omega fatty acids, we need to protect that cellular health and cellular strength. Unless there's a break in our skin, the only way viruses get in is through our mouth or through our sinuses, right? Those are the two main areas that it gets in. Lysine protects that mucosal lining and helps strengthen those cells so that things that we eat or come in contact with, you touch a surface, you touch your mouth, which if you're like most people, they did a study years ago and people touch their face like 20 times a minute. Just not helpful when we're trying to fight this COVID, right? I think that's the number one benefit of having cloth masks and masks around is when you go to touch your face, you're not touching your nose and you're not touching your mouth. So, you know, that lysine will help support those mucosal linings and help them to heal. Savory is one we haven't talked about. It's antimicrobial, antioxidant, and cytotoxic. So cytotoxic means it will actually kill cells. It specializes in bacterial and fungal infections. So that savory is cytotoxic to bacteria and fungal cells, not to all the other cells into your body, right? Knotweed is antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and antimicrobial. House leek is antioxidant and antiseptic. So all of these blends are put together for a reason. They are synergistic. They work really well together, synergistically. They enhance each other's benefit. So that's why they're put in these blends the way they are, so that they can work together for the greatest outcome. That balsamia, you'll see it in several products. It works really well, especially on influenza viruses. Ears and throats. So these are some things that, you know, we are all on lockdown. Some offices, medical offices are open to well visits or just normal sick ones. Some have closed down. Some won't let you go in unless you're seeking emergency care. I've had a couple of patients from around the globe contact me because they can't get a hold of their primary care doctor. So here are some things to treat. You know, the normal everyday stuff that you're going to come across. The baby kids aroma oil concentrate, or right now it's called just the aroma oil concentrate. The baby one has the olive oil, chamomile, juniper, geranium, and lavender. It works really good on external and internal ear infections, calms that pain right down, and calms that irritation. It will fight off external ear infection as well. the olive oil and the chamomile in it and the lavender help to kill that bacteria inside of it. The ST Aroma Spritzer is really good for a sore throat. The lavender in it is antifungal, antioxidant. It treats restlessness, muscle aches, pains, right? Increases sleep. But that lavender helps heal tissue, which on a sore throat, your tissue becomes red and raw and irritated. That lavender helps to heal that tissue. Cinnamon has antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, antioxidant properties. So the ST Aroma Spritzer is really good on like on your sore throat, strep throat and stuff. That helps really well. Clove is very numbing for the oral cavity and for the mouth, so it tends to help numb that area. And thyme will boost a white blood cell count in your blood, which is that immunoboosting property, right? Those white cells turn into all those helper cells, the T cells, the B cells, and that immune response. We want that white count high to fight that infection off. One piece of advice, there's an ST. ST stands for sore throat aroma spritzer. Okay. There is a phytobiotic spray. That phytobiotic spray is for skin. Don't buy the phytobiotic spray thinking you're getting the ST aroma spritzer. I made that mistake once. Spraying it in your mouth is very nasty. It does not taste well at all. So ST sore throat, that's what you want to use for those throats. Okay. Not the phytobiotic. It's nasty. Okay, so for the stomach bugs, the French green clay and GI Pro are phenomenal. If you have irritable bowel or just your gut hurts a lot, the GI Pro is amazing. It has a ginger, peppermint, cardamom, thyme, chamomile, and French green clay in it. The French green clay itself, you can buy just the clay. Sorry, I'm at home, so you're going to hear my kids in the background, so I apologize. The French green clay, you're going to want to put a teaspoon in water and then let it soak overnight. Stir it up, let it soak overnight to release some of the properties. Stir it up again and then drink it. And yes, you're drinking dirt. You can add peppermint or ginger in it as needed. That kind of changes the flavor. Or you can take the GI Pro. The GI Pro has the French green clay in it mixed with the ginger, peppermint, cardamom, thyme, and chamomile. So a lot of my patients tell me that the GI Pro is a better way to get in the French green clay rather than drinking dirt, although you don't get as much of the French green clay in the capsules as you would if you just took a teaspoon or a tablespoon in water. So kind of see how you do yourself and see how you feel. Licorice is another good one for the stomach bugs and the stomach irritation. Just remember to keep in mind if you have high blood pressure to use it in a blend and not to keep it pure in its pure form because it can raise your blood pressure. So oils, teas, those are great. You can roll essential oils onto your abdomen and kind of calm it down. They will absorb through the skin. Peppermint, ginger, fennel, anise, cilantro, juniper berry, spearmint, tarragon, all of those oils can be diluted and applied to the abdomen. Some people put them on the bottom of their feet. The pores actually on the bottom of your feet are larger, so they absorb well through the bottom of your feet as well. My children really prefer to have it on their belly, and a lot of times when they have the stomach flu, I'll just make them a roll-on, and they can use the roll-on on their belly when they don't feel well, and they tell me it tends to help a lot. So any of those teas are really good. Teas can be steeped, sipped on, throughout the day, make them feel a little better. Natural antibiotics and antiviral solutions. So this is a picture of elderberry. That's what it looks like. They look beautiful, but they are kind of bitter to the taste. Fresh. So the ImmunoBoost Extra Tincture Blends, Phytobiotic, the Ultra Elderberry Plus. So Ultramonolaurin, we haven't talked a lot about that. Let's take a minute and talk about the Ultramonolaurin beads. Ultramonolaurin has had a lot of studies done on it. The chemicals in Ultramonolaurin, actually, there's 3 of them that make a blend. They're some of the strongest antibacterial. In the right doses. They've been put head-to-head with vancomycin, which is a very powerful. It's one of, in medicine we call the big guns, right? It's an IV antibiotic only. So Ultramonolaurin has a lot of antibacterial properties, immune boosting support. I've used it on patients as just an antibiotic instead of using an antibiotic. It is slightly more selective than antibiotics are. Remember, we talked about how antibiotics can be a big bomb that goes off and kills everything. The ultramonolaurin beads are more selective and boost the immune system and have that antibacterial property. So you get a dual benefit with the ultramonolaurin beads. They look like little wax pellets. They don't really have much flavor. If you flip them over, you'll see little dots inside. Those little dots are the monolaurin in them. You can chew them up if you think they're truly just wax. You'll probably only make that mistake once if they're nasty. They're nasty, but they're coated in these little tiny, kind of like coconut wax drops or little beads, so that you can just put a little, really is like a fourth of a teaspoon that you'll put in your mouth and then drink down with water, so you don't have to get the taste of the monolaurin. But that is one potent little supplement right there. So when you have these two, you don't want to take all of them all the time at their max dose. Remember, they're medicines, right? Most of our medicines were off of plants. Aspirin came from a bark, right? And so we need to be careful when we use these, that just because they say supplements on them, we need to remember that they truly are medicine. So when you take these, be careful with those ultramonolaurin beads. It's a potent supplement. So use it wisely. It works. It is incredibly effective. So use it carefully. The Immu Plus is a blend of herbs. We didn't talk a lot about that either. It is a blend of herbs that specifically targets the immune system to support and strengthen the immune system through any cold. And then the Ultra CCF, that's a cough, cold, and flu tincture blend. It is a bit nasty. These tincture blends are incredibly potent as well. A little goes a long way. A teaspoon is too much. 2 cc's is less than half of a teaspoon at a time, and that's the adult dose. They do have an ImmunoBoost extra tincture blend for children that they have come out with, which is safer. And I didn't get a chance to put it into this slide, but that's what I would recommend for children. Instead of trying to microdose the tincture blend of the adult dose down, I would get the children's blend. Safer, made with children in mind, tastes better. These tinctures are kind of nasty. Make sure that you mix them with water or with juice. My children and I tend to put it in water, my husband and I put it in water, a little bit of water, drink it down fast, and then follow it with a chaser of some sort so that we can get it down without having the flavor in your mouth. Some people are pros. My one son tells me to suck it up and he'll just squirt it straight in his mouth and do fine. He's a little better than I am. I like to put it in a little bit of water and dilute it down. It's a little potent for me. Prevention, let's talk about prevention, right? For all of these things, if they die on the surfaces, then we're not touching them and then touching their face like we do 20 times a minute. Then, using household cleaners is important. Lemon, tea tree, orange, those are really good essential oils that clean surfaces really well. Using coconut emulsifier, which I have hunted everywhere for other emulsifiers just to see if they're available. Time Labs is the only place that I know of. And if you know of anywhere else, feel free to share. Time Labs, one of the only places that I know of that has an emulsifier. What emulsifiers do is they take oil and they break it apart so that it can be dissolved in water. So when you dilute it, you want to do equal amounts of emulsifier to equal amounts of essential oil in a water base so that you can clean your surfaces, right? Disinfect doorknobs, tables, chairs, frequent areas, handles to things that are commonly touched. In your diffuser, lemongrass, tea tree, orange, lemon, there's several others that help to purify the air and kill the bacteria in the air so that we don't share. Just a moment to kind of help knock down and kill some of that bacteria in the air so we're not sharing and breathing in those respiratory illnesses. Like I said, 2 ways in, right? Through your mouth or through your sinuses. And as we breathe air in through our mouth and our sinuses, we're breathing that bacteria in. Somebody coughs in the air and we suck it in as we take a breath. So adding these into the diffusers tends to help knock down some of that amount that's in the air. Some take-home points, okay? if you have the coronavirus, like I said, we don't have a cure. For the coronavirus, so far, no one's been able to come up with a cure in medicine. So if you need medical attention, please get it. Okay. We're not saying that essential oils are going to take you from being on a vent and all of a sudden miraculously heal you with one dose. Get the medical care that you need. If, that being said, if you're not that sick and you can do it with supplements, your immune system will thank you for that, and your body will thank you for that. Anti-infectious plants generally have a broad spectrum antimicrobial activity, which means they can hit multiple bugs, but not every bug, right? Not every antiviral works against every virus, so be careful with how you use them. If you have high blood pressure, be cautious with licorice. If you have cancer, stay away from zinc. Other things you want to stay away from are refined carbs, saturated fats, and junk foods, right? If you have cancer, your body's working on fighting that cancer off. Anything that stresses the body will cause it to work harder, and it will rob your body of resources that it needs to fight the cancer. So there's my cancer tip. Just stay away from zinc supplements and all of the things that make your body work harder to detox. Honey, don't use it in infants under 12 months because of the botulism problem. And then use caution when taking any oils internally, okay? Seek the advice of a trained medical professional or use professionally formulated, ready-to-use capsules or tinctures. And I think that's just about it. For me, there's a list of references. Feel free to click on and use any of those references. There's a lot that really help. PubMed, I probably should talk about PubMed. If you want to do some research and you don't have a lot of cash or don't have ability to go get medical articles, PubMed is free to anyone, put out by the government, and it has a lot of medical articles. So you're welcome to do research through PubMed. So in closing, just remember that this statement's not, we have to put this in for the FDA. It's not been evaluated by the FDA, okay? It's not going to cure every disease, but it will certainly help to boost your immune system. So, any questions? Comments? Anything anyone's thinking about? Be careful out there. You know, there are some places that you end up getting the coronavirus. Like I said, it lives 17 days. We don't know how long it can truly live.
We are getting some questions in here.
Oh, good. I don't see them on my end.
Okay, so we have one person who's asking if all of these are okay.
Will you tell them?
Pregnant women?
So there are several that are okay for pregnant women. And if you will send us your email, I will send you a list of pregnancy safe supplements.
Okay.
That you can totally use.
And we should have her email. Trying to see.
Okay, perfect.
The other questions are asking if there's printouts or copies of the presentation available.
And I think we usually in the past have sent out a copy of the PowerPoint. So you have the resources and all of the stuff at your fingertips. So yeah, we can get that out.
Okay, and that looks like all the questions people have put in here. And I do want to let people know we're going to have recordings of this available at some point as well. So keep an eye out for that.
I'm sorry I'm not getting your questions on my end. That's a little weird.
Yeah, that looks like all the questions. So.
Okay. So on that note, we will send out this copy. Thanks for listening. I hope you learned something worthwhile.